What do you do when a season starts to feel less like promise and more like a question mark? You don't whisper, you shout, you point, you pick. And in Cleveland, the shout this week sounded like a city asking for something new, Shedeur Sanders, while the team handed the ball to the familiar face of Dillon Gabriel. Picture it, MetLife Stadium, a dull November light, cardboard and hope folded into the stands. The scoreboard reads Jets 27, Browns 20. The game flashes. A handful of good throws, a pile of sacks, a drive that died in turf. Fans file out and their phones light up like memorial candles. Tweets, clips, the inevitable chorus of a play Shedeur. It's loud online and louder in the gut of a franchise that has been chasing answers all season. Dillon Gabriel is the guy the Browns picked to learn, to grow, to step in when the moment demanded. He's a third-round pick, an Oregon kid who spent the year tracing the rhythms of the pro game. Practice reps, notebook pages, incremental improvement. On Sunday, he completed 17 of 32 for 167 yards and 2 touchdowns. Clean on turnovers, imperfect under pressure, and perhaps the stat that stung the most, 6 sacks, 47 yards lost. That's the kind of number that echoes in locker rooms. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders sits in the background of that drama like a lightning bolt you can't look away from. A name that conjures pedigree, hype, and the intoxicating idea of what if. Fans lit up timelines with pleas, put him in, see what you have, stop the bleeding. The calls were raw and honest and impatient, the language of modern fandom when hope wants a decision right now. Head coach Kevin Stefanski's answer was not a dramatic mic drop. It was, in its own way, a vote. "We're going to stick with Dillon," he said after the game. A short sentence that carries 1,000 rationales. Development, continuity, trust, schedule, the raw reality that quarterbacks don't magically solve team problems. It's the kind of decision that inflames people who want action and comforts people who prefer process. So here's the thing to remember. This is not a simple contest of popularity versus logic. It's a collision of storytelling forces. On one side, you have a rookie protected by a narrative arc, the training montage, the patient climb. On the other, you have a spark, Shedeur, whose name alone suggests immediacy. Fans see the spark as a cure. Coaches see the spark as an experiment with consequences. What the camera didn't catch during the broadcast were the private conversations that make all of this complicated. Shot caller coaches whisper film room caveats, blitz pickups, offensive line growth, third down percentages, protection calls. They weigh the intangible, leadership presence, locker room chemistry, with the tangible completion percentage, sacks, dropbacks. That's why a coach's statement usually sounds like a pea beneath many shells. "We're sticking with Dillon" is less a swipe at Shedeur and more a statement of timeline. This is how we believe we get better over months, not minutes. Let's be frank about what the moment exposes. The Browns are 2-7 and patience runs thin when the record reads like a litany. Fans are emotionally taxed. Social media transforms "let's see" into "do it now." That's the context for the chorus demanding a change. It's less about Dillon as a human and more about the hunger for a pivot that might make things feel different. People want an event to cling to, a fresh signal that the season can still pivot. But what coaches feel in their bones is subtler. You don't just drop a young player into a silo full of problems and expect the result to be the optimal one. A quarterback is not just the passer of the ball. He's the anchor of the game plan. Offensive linemen synchronize, receivers cut to a rhythm, the playbook breathes around the quarterback's tendencies. Swap the lead without rehearsal, and you risk unraveling more than you fix. That doesn't make the call cowardly, it makes it cautious, and sometimes that caution is what seasons need. Still, there's the human heat of the matter. Imagine Gabriel in the blue locker room, the buzz of boos in your ears from the stands, the text threads, the highlight reels that will replay your mistakes for days. Imagine the pressure of knowing every social post is a tally of your perceived failures. Coaches have to manage not only the X's and O's, but the fragile interior life of a kid learning to shoulder public scrutiny. They must decide whether to shield him or expose him, and that decision writes the next chapter of his career. Shedeur's presence complicates everything wonderfully and dangerously. He's a spectacle, yes, but he's also a variable. What happens if you flip the switch and he struggles? Do you swing the pendulum back and forth? Do you fracture the locker room trust by signaling that no development is safe? Or what if he uplifts the unit and the season becomes the story everyone wanted? That uncertain prize is both intoxicating and terrifying. This moment also forces a league-wide question. How fast do we move when the crowd demands urgency? We live in an era where patience dies quickly. Teams are judged in real time, but the megaphone society creates a pressure to test quick fixes that may not be fixes at all. The Browns might be older than their record suggests. They might need the slow work of cohesion, not the quick fix of spectacle. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Keep Dillon for now, but not like you're hiding him behind a curtain. Test wrinkles. Give Shedeur measured reps where the game can't be lost and starts can't be ruined. Use short yardage preseason style packages or controlled mop-up minutes. Let the development be deliberate, surgical. Let the two quarterbacks exist in a sequence that privileges growth over theater. There's also another path. Ownership and management can reshape the narrative by building around whichever identity they choose. If they decide Shedeur is the future, then the rest of the roster, the coaching adaptations, the draft philosophy will follow. That's structural work. It's heavy and slow and usually unromantic. But the sustained project is what builds teams that don't flip when the internet demands a new headline. At the heart of this, don't lose sight of the human beat. This is about young men whose lives are being debated in hot takes. It's about coaches who carry the weight of public accountability. It's about a city that wants something to believe in. The compassionate lens is small but vital. Remind us all that these players are people before they are plot devices. If you want the blunt takeaway, the kind you can paste on a thumbnail, here it is. Cleveland is choosing process over panic. That choice might be wise, or it might be costly. Either way, it will tell us more about the team's identity in the next 4 weeks than 10,000 angry tweets. The real drama is not who starts next Sunday. It's whether the Browns turn this inflection into a learning curve or an excuse. In the end, football seasons are a lot like conversations. They last, they meander, and they sometimes need a stubborn voice that believes time will do the work. The fans who screamed for Shedeur will get their moment eventually, perhaps sooner than later. But for now, the Browns are keeping faith with a young man still learning to stand firm under stormy crowds. So when the next whistle blows, don't just watch the play. Watch the way the team breathes around its quarterback. Watch which choice the organization doubles down on. Because in a season that feels unraveled, the smallest, quietest decisions, the ones made not for the clip, but for the next Monday at practice, will determine whether this franchise rebuilds or just rebuilds its highlight reel of regrets. And if you need an image to take with you, imagine a stadium of phones held high, a young quarterback walking toward a noisy sideline, and somewhere in the noise, a coach's calm voice saying only one sentence. The question is, which sentence will be louder next week? The crowd's call for change, or the coach's decision to keep building? You want chaos? Cleveland gave us calm. The Browns lose to the Jets, 27-20, drop to 2-7, fans scream for Shedeur Sanders, and the team quietly says, we're sticking with Dillon Gabriel. That's the story. It's the kind of stubborn move that makes Twitter combust and front offices sweat. It's also the sort of decision that says more about process than panic. Here's what actually happened, why people are furious, and what the Browns are trying to buy with patience. Dillon Gabriel finished the game 17 of 32 for 167 yards and 2 touchdowns. Not a romantic stat line, but at least he didn't throw any interceptions. The other number that tells the real story, 6 sacks for 47 lost yards. That second stat is less about Gabriel and more about the offensive line melting down in front of him. You can forgive a young QB some timing and misreads. You can't forgive a pocket that disappears every other drop back. The tape from MetLife was miserable on that front. Fans notice the immediate fix they want, bench the guy who keeps getting mauled, and roll the dice on Shedeur Sanders. The message in the replies was mostly the same. Just play Shedeur. Nothing to lose. Do it now. That's emotionally obvious. Losing breeds impatience. When your team is 2-7, the crowd's patience evaporates and the scoreboard gets loud. But let's parse the Browns' reply. Kevin Stefanski didn't dance around it. After the loss, he said plainly, We're going to stick with Dillon. He doubled down on Gabriel's preparation and temperament. He's a very intelligent young man, Stefanski said, and framed the decision as trust earned in practice. That's the language of development. It's the difference between a franchise that trades for a quick fix and one that wants to find long-term answers in-house. It's also political. Changing starters publicly every week looks chaotic. Staying put looks purposeful. Which one resonates depends on whether you value immediate results